Hello, and welcome to video 1 of our 3-part series. In this video, we'll discuss why Kairos exists and what problems we're trying to solve. As I mentioned in the first video, Kairos really started out of my classroom and my co-founder's classroom when we were teaching at Jennings and Normandy high schools. What we saw there, and would later see in scores of schools that we visited across the country, was that something was wrong. The traditional model of education wasn't so much an instrument of intellectual and moral liberation, opening doors and helping students develop the capacity to shape their own future. It was more like a social sorting mechanism, separating black from white, rich from poor, and slotting each onto a predetermined path. In that way, the American school flies in the face of true American ideals. For all of our shortcomings, we are a society that believes in equality of opportunity, in the right for each of us to self-determine. In a society founded on and continually working toward these ideals, students need to learn how to make decisions for themselves, how to set their own ends and work to achieve them. They need to understand information deeply enough to analyze, create, and collaborate, to use what they've learned for a higher purpose. And students, people really, need to know how to engage with a diversity of perspectives, to think critically about their own, and to work across lines of difference. If those are our goals, how did we get here? Today's schools look almost exactly like they did 100 years ago, when they were conceived during the progressive school era. So what were those schools designed for? They were built on an idea that was really revolutionary for its time, that education should be funded by taxation, free at the point of delivery, and compulsory for all. But these schools were also modeled on the interests of and in the image of industrialism. And most schools are still organized along those factory lines. That's why every second of every day, students are told where, how, on what, and with whom to work, whether they can talk, and if they can use the restroom. That's why students move from class to class on the factory bell schedule. That's why they're organized by their age or their date of manufacture, as if the most important thing kids have in common is how old they are. That's why 30 students are processed together, all receiving the exact same treatment at the exact same time. And that's why they focus disproportionately on memorization instead of questioning and exploration. It's really not hard to read between these lines and to see what this system was designed for. But we actually don't have to guess. William Torrey Harris, superintendent of St. Louis Public Schools and later U.S. Commissioner of Education, was explicit about the intention. And I quote, "Ideally 99 out of 100 are automata, careful to walk in the prescribed path, careful to follow the prescribed custom. This is not an accident, but the result of substantial education, which, scientifically defined, is the deliberate subsumption of the individual." End quote. The purpose is to turn kids into cogs. The system fails to recognize, in fact, it tries to stamp out, both the jagged profile that characterizes all human talents and the idiosyncratic trajectories we all take through the world. It ignores the fundamental, if obvious fact that we're all different. You might be ahead in science, but behind in math. You might spend hours poring over history, but need extra motivation to tackle grammar and syntax. But you're still bound to the tyranny of a fictional average, of teaching to the middle. If you're ahead and you're bored, tough. If you're behind and you're overwhelmed, tough. It's no wonder so many students feel apathetic about school. It wasn't designed for them. That's why at Kairos, instead of standardizing curriculum and content delivery, we personalize each student's trajectory to meet their unique needs and strengths. If a student's ready for more advanced material or a faster pace, we can speed up. If a student needs additional help or is working at a slower pace, we can support them. Instead of focusing on rote memorization, our students engage in higher order thinking, creativity, analysis, what we call cognitive skills. Like in the real world, they need to practice collaborating and building something real with the knowledge they've gained. And instead of habituating students to control and compliance, we ask students to practice making choices for themselves, but to do it in an environment with caring adults there to set guardrails and to help them when they stumble. The reality is that today's world simply demands different skills. Robots, machines are taking over the work functions from the industrial model. Jobs that rely on the industrial era skill set are going if they haven't already gone. But there are things that robots can't do. Think critically, create, work in relationship with others. We call these things cognitive skills, and we focus on developing them not only because they're the very stuff of what it means to be human, but because the jobs of tomorrow are going to require them. Our mission is not to develop a specific program or to engineer a certain type of student, but to cultivate an environment in which students can grow and learn to shape their own destiny. Think garden, not factory. Of course, it's not only that the school room and the schoolhouse haven't changed that much. It's who gets to attend which school, too. Our schools are almost as segregated as they were 100 years ago. This shouldn't surprise us. These schools were explicitly designed as social and racial sorting mechanisms during an era when segregation was the law of the land. And it's no secret that wealthier parents who have more choices about where to live also have more choices when it comes to school. But the truth is that our school system across the board is not designed to empower parents or kids. At Kairos, our mission is to reimagine a school that's obsessed with responding to families, all families. That's why instead of geographic enrollment boundaries, we enroll citywide. Instead of entrance exams or tuition, we're free and open to all. Instead of a segregated student population, we are intentionally diverse. And instead of forcing students to escape from their neighborhood to attend a high-quality school, we built one right here to contribute to the fabric of our community. Students who attend segregated schools don't just magically intuit an understanding of other cultures or an ability to work across lines of difference when they grow up. People need to practice these skills during their most formative years if we want to have a shot at solving some of our nation's most intractable problems. And of course, students who are challenged by different perspectives also gain personally from these experiences. Leading ed research suggests that, regardless of their background, students who attend intentionally diverse schools do better on a whole host of metrics. They have a higher average ACT score, four-year college acceptance rate, and four-year college graduation rate. They're more likely to work in diverse job settings, to live in diverse neighborhoods, and they're less likely to hold negative racial biases about people who don't look like them. Their horizons grow, and their minds sharpen. The negotiation between diverse perspectives is fundamental to the American project. It's how we build a more just, equitable, and prosperous society. In a world diversifying along every axis, that project is more important now than ever. At Kairos, we don't shrink from these problems. A changing worldview and economy, the challenge to live up to our most fundamental ideals. In fact, that's where our name comes from. We call ourselves Kairos, ancient Greek for the opportune moment or time, because that's what we think this is. The right time to rethink education for the 21st century. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll check out our next video about some of the awesome things our kids accomplished last year.